They called him the luckiest man in Babylon. But was it truly luck? Or something far deeper, something he created with his own choices? In a city where fortunes rise and fall like desert sands, one man's story reveals how opportunity favors the prepared, and how what seems like luck is often the quiet reward of wisdom, patience, and courage. Let's step inside the tale of Nada, the merchant who turned adversity into abundance, and discover what real luck means in the world of Babylon. They called him the luck. The journey begins, a slave and a merchant. The story of the luckiest man in Babylon begins not with riches, but with chains. Nada, once a respected merchant, found himself walking beside a young man through the bustling streets of Babylon. The boy, Hadan Gula, was proud, the grandson of an old friend of Nada's, and he looked at the city's splendor with a mix of awe and arrogance. He spoke freely of the wealth he would inherit and the privileges awaiting him. But Nada smiled quietly, for he knew that true wealth was never inherited. It was earned. As their caravan made its way toward the city, the hot wind swept over the dunes, carrying memories of Nada's youth. Long before he was known as a wealthy trader, he had walked those same roads as a slave. Once he too had dreams of gold and freedom, but those dreams seemed impossible when he was sold in the market like an animal. The chains on his wrists clinked as he worked, day after day, for masters who saw him as nothing more than labor. Yet deep within him there burned a flame, a determination to rise, to never surrender his spirit, even if his body was enslaved. He told young Hadangula, "I was once where you would never imagine, a slave who owned nothing, not even his own life." The boy's eyes widened in disbelief, but Nada continued, his voice calm and steady. "I was sold to a baker. He was a harsh man, quick to anger and slow to kindness. Every day I kneaded dough before the sun rose, and every night I cleaned the ovens long after it set. But I learned something there, that honest work, done well, is the foundation of every fortune." While others cursed their fate, Nada chose to give his best effort, even in bondage. He knew that complaining would not loosen his chains, but diligence might, and in time his master began to notice. The baker trusted him with more responsibility, watching the ovens, handling the grain, managing small transactions. The work was hard, but the lessons were priceless. Nada learned that the gods do not grant luck. They reward persistence and reliability. When the baker died, Nada was sold again, this time to a merchant. But unlike his first master, this man saw potential in him. He treated him fairly, offered him chances to prove his worth, and eventually made him a partner. It was then that Nada understood a great truth. Freedom comes not from luck or inheritance, but from earning the trust of others through integrity. As he shared his story, the boy's proud expression softened. Babylon's towering walls were now visible in the distance, a symbol of strength built brick by brick, just as a man builds his fortune one choice at a time. Nada turned to him and said, "Do not call me lucky, my young friend. Call me persistent, for the gods will bless any man who works faithfully, serves honorably, and learns from every burden life places upon his shoulders." The lesson of work and honor. As the caravan moved deeper into Babylon, the sounds of the city filled the air. Merchants calling out prices, camels groaning under heavy loads, children laughing in the distance. For young Hadan Gula, the sight was dazzling. Markets bursting with color, gold gleaming under the sun, and men shouting deals with the rhythm of drums. Yet for Nada, every corner of that city carried a memory, a reminder of sweat, sacrifice, and lessons carved by time. He remembered how his second master, the merchant, had once told him, "A man's worth is measured not by the gold in his purse, but by the honesty of his word." Those words became the foundation of Nada's life. Every task he took, he did with a sense of pride. He would load goods with care, keep accounts precise, and treat every transaction as if it carried his own name. And soon that name, once that of a slave, became a mark of trust among Babylon's traders. Nada's loyalty and work ethic drew attention. The merchant saw in him more than a servant. He saw a man of potential, one who could be trusted even with gold. One evening, as they camped beneath the desert stars, his master said, "Sharu Nada, I see in you the heart of a free man. You have earned not only my respect but your liberty." Those words struck him like thunder. Freedom, a gift that few slaves ever received, was his at last. Yet even then, Sharu Nada did not celebrate with pride. Instead, he knelt before his master and said, "Let me still serve you as a partner until I am worthy to stand beside you as an equal." And so began his rise from servant to merchant. He learned the secrets of trade, how to buy when others were fearful, how to sell when others were greedy, and how to treat every man, rich or poor, with fairness. His honesty became his fortune. When others sought quick gain, he sought long-term trust. When others gambled on chance, he invested in character. Babylon, a city built on ambition, respected such men. Now as he spoke to young Hadangula, Sharu Nada's voice was steady but carried the weight of years. "Your grandfather, Arad Gula, was my friend," he said. "He too rose from humble beginnings. He earned his place by working with his hands, by building trust brick by brick. That is why his wealth endured. But tell me, young man, what have you earned?" The boy hesitated. He had been raised in comfort, never knowing hardship. To him, fortune was a family name, not a personal effort. He looked down, realizing that his pride had been built on sand. "I have inherited much," he whispered, "but earned little." Sharu Nada placed a hand on his shoulder. "Then learn now what your grandfather taught me, that work is the surest path to honor. Luck fades, gold disappears, but the man who labors with integrity can never truly be poor. Even when he has nothing, he has his name." The young man nodded slowly, his earlier arrogance replaced by reflection. The city around him no longer looked like a playground of riches. It looked like a field of opportunity waiting for honest hands. He began to see the truth, that every coin he might one day possess would carry not only value, but responsibility. And as they walked, Sharu Nada smiled inwardly. Perhaps, he thought, this journey had been the God's way of reminding him and teaching the boy that fortune's favor belongs not to those who wait for luck, but to those who work for it. The true meaning of luck. That evening, as the sun dipped below Babylon's walls and cast the streets in golden light, Sharu Nada and Hadangula rested near the great ziggurat. The young man sat quietly, still processing the weight of the merchant's story. Around them, the city pulsed with life. Laughter from taverns, the clinking of coins, and the scent of roasted dates carried on the warm breeze. Yet in that moment, all that noise seemed distant. Sharu Nada was teaching something that no school, no scroll, no fortune could ever offer. The real secret behind what people call luck. "Tell me, Hadan," Sharu Nada began softly, "do you believe I am lucky because I was freed from slavery?" "Yes," the young man replied quickly. "You must have been favored by the gods." "Few men are freed." Sharu Nada nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps. But the gods, I think, favor those who first favor themselves. When I was a slave, I did not wait for luck to find me. I worked as though I already had my freedom. I served with honesty when I had no reason to. And so, when the moment came, when opportunity arrived, I was ready to seize it." He leaned closer. "That is what men call luck, the meeting of preparation and opportunity. The fool waits for chance to lift him. The wise man builds a ladder." The young man sat in silence. Sharu Nada's words pierced deeper than any sermon or proverb. He realized that every lucky man he admired was not truly lucky at all. They were simply men who had prepared long before fortune arrived. The baker who rose at dawn, the merchant who kept his word, the farmer who tended his crops even in drought. All were architects of their own destiny. Sharu Nada continued, "When I became free, I did not rush to live in luxury. I saved my earnings, I reinvested them in my trade. And when others laughed at my caution, I smiled. Because I knew, good fortune comes to those who respect small beginnings. A single copper, wisely handled, can grow into a purse of gold." He told the boy how he had once been offered a partnership in a caravan that others believed too risky. But he saw the opportunity others missed, the chance to supply rare spices from distant lands. He invested every coin he had earned through honest toil. The journey was long and dangerous, but it succeeded beyond expectation. That single decision, backed by years of preparation and trust, transformed him from a humble merchant into one of the wealthiest men in Babylon. But, Sharunada added, had I not spent those years proving my worth, had I been lazy, careless, or dishonest, no man would have invited me into that venture. My luck began long before the gold arrived. The young man listened intently, his earlier confidence replaced by humility. Then luck is not something the gods give freely, he said slowly. It is something a man earns without knowing when it will come. Exactly, said Sharunada, smiling. And when it does come, the world calls him lucky. But the truth is, he has simply reaped the harvest of his own labor. As the torches of Babylon flickered in the night, Hadan Gula felt a quiet shift within himself. For the first time, he saw his inheritance not as a blessing to spend, but as a duty to uphold. He understood that gold, without wisdom, was a curse, but gold guided by experience and effort became a tool for greatness. Sharunada looked up at the stars and said, "The gods give every man two hands, one to work with and one to hold opportunity when it comes. If you use only one, the other remains empty forever." And under the shimmering Babylonian sky, the young man vowed to live not as the heir to wealth, but as the student of work, honor, and readiness. For that, he now knew, was what made Sharunada the luckiest man in Babylon. End of section 3, around 4,900 characters. Would you like me to continue with section 4, the legacy of wisdom and true fortune? And should I include a short outro connecting to the next chapter? The legacy of wisdom and true fortune. When dawn broke over Babylon, the city glowed like molten gold. Traders filled the streets, servants opened stalls, and the scent of fresh bread drifted through the air. Sharunada and Hadangula walked toward the marketplace, one moving with calm purpose, the other with new eyes, seeing the city not as a playground of wealth, but as a school of life. As they passed through the crowded lanes, Sharunada pointed out the faces of Babylon's merchants. "See that man," he said, gesturing toward a jeweler counting his coins. "He once lost everything in a robbery, yet he rebuilt his fortune with patience and fair trade. Luck did not save him. Effort did." He pointed to a woman selling cloth. "She began with a single loom and a dream. Now she owns 3 stalls. Is she lucky or simply diligent?" Hadan Gula began to understand that fortune smiled upon those who honored their craft, their word, and their labor. The idea of luck as a mysterious force now felt hollow. Every so-called lucky man in Babylon was merely someone who had worked long and hard behind the scenes before the world noticed. As they reached the great temple square, Sharunada turned to him and said, "Hadan, the richest men of Babylon were once slaves, debtors, or poor farmers. The gods favor no man more than another, only those who act with courage and discipline. Even gold obeys those who obey themselves." He told him how his own fortune had not changed his heart. Despite his wealth, he still worked alongside his traders, checked every account, and gave fair wages. "To stay prosperous," he said, "one must remain humble. Pride blinds a man faster than poverty." He paused and looked directly into the boy's eyes. "If you would honor your grandfather's name, start not with spending his gold, but with earning your own. Only then will you know its worth." The young man nodded slowly, a look of newfound determination on his face. The arrogance he carried when they began their journey had vanished, replaced by respect, not just for Sharunada, but for the value of effort itself. "I understand now," he said. "Luck is not found, it is built." Sharunada smiled gently. "Yes, and once built, it cannot be taken from you. Fortune may come and go, but skill, honor, and diligence remain your companions for life." They walked together toward the house of Ard Gula, the boy's late grandfather. As they entered the grand estate, Hadan Gula paused at the doorway and turned back to the old merchant. I will remember your words, Sharunada. I will earn my own fortune and prove worthy of my family's name. The elder man nodded with quiet pride. Then you will indeed be the luckiest man in Babylon, not because gold favors you, but because wisdom guides you. And as the morning sun bathed the streets in light, Sharunada knew his friend Arad Gula would rest easy, for the true inheritance had been passed, not coins, not land, but understanding. The story of the luckiest man in Babylon was not one of miracles or divine gifts. It was the timeless truth that still echoes through the ages. Luck smiles on those who prepare. Prosperity follows those who serve with integrity. And every man, no matter his beginnings, holds the power to shape his own fortune. And so, as Sharu Nada's wisdom lights the path for a new generation, we are reminded that every stroke of luck begins with a single act of effort. In our next chapter, we'll step beyond the city walls once more, to uncover how Babylon's strength and resilience were guarded not just by gold, but by courage.